Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into the ancient Kattari Jataka. And let me tell you, this one packs a timeless lesson about justice, truth, and the genuinely heavy responsibilities of parenthood. It's kind of fascinating, right? How a story this old can still offer absolutely razor-sharp insights into human behavior. We're going to explore this scenario where raw power clashes directly with sheer integrity, and we'll see exactly how the Buddha navigates social prejudice and some serious royal ego to deliver a really profound karmic lesson.
So, how do you prove the truth when a king calls you a liar? Just imagine it for a second. You're standing there in a grand royal court. You hold the absolute, undeniable truth in your hands, only to have the most powerful man in the room, the ultimate decision-maker in the land, just completely deny your very existence, all to save his own pride. It's a terrifying, incredibly frustrating scenario, but, well, it sets the perfect stage for our narrative today.
Now, to figure out how to navigate such an impossible situation, we need to look at the framework of our story, the Jataka tales. Now, if you're familiar with these, you know they aren't just entertaining little fables. They're actually deeply structured moral blueprints that detail the previous lives of Gautama Buddha. And in our source material today, the Buddha uses one of these specific past life memories to step in and correct a really grave injustice that's unfolding right in front of his eyes.
Moving on to Section 1, A Queen's Sudden Fall. Our narrative kicks off with an immediate, just absolutely crushing injustice. So King Kosala discovers that Queen Vasabhakati's mother was actually a slave girl named Nagamunda. And his reaction? He brutally demotes his wife and their young son Vidudaba. He literally strips them of their royal status, punishing them for a lineage that they had absolutely zero control over. I mean, think about it. Her entire world is turned upside down by the very system she thought protected her. It really forces us to view this whole struggle through the lens of a mother fighting this rigid, totally unforgiving class prejudice.
And this is exactly where the Buddha steps in as a key decision maker. But instead of just, scolding King Kosala outright, he does something really clever. He compares Kosala's class prejudice to the actions of an ancient ruler, King Brahmadatta. Now, both of these powerful men fail profoundly as fathers, but for slightly different reasons. While Kosala bows to these arbitrary societal rules, Brahmadatta actually abandons his family purely to avoid public embarrassment.
Which brings us to Section 2, The Ring and the Promise.
Okay, so the Buddha recounts this past life where King Brahmadatta encounters a singing firewood gatherer. It all starts with a super brief, maybe 1-hour romantic encounter out in the forest. Before leaving, he gives the woman his royal signet ring and makes this promise. If they have a son, she should bring the boy and the ring to the palace as proof. Well, 9 months later, the child is born. Fast forward about 7 years, and the young boy is just getting mercilessly bullied for being fatherless. This completely forces the struggling mother's hand. So in a single, fateful day, she takes her son and that hard physical evidence, the signet ring, straight to the king's court to claim their rightful place.
Section 3. A father's public denial.
So the mother arrives, fully expecting the king to honor his word, right, to stand by his integrity. But as we often see, power, when it's threatened by embarrassment, usually defaults to cowardice. The king looks right at them and says, "He is not my son. This is not my ring." Faced with the judgment of his royal peers, his ministers, the whole court, King Brahmadatta just completely lies. He denies the child, and he denies the undeniable physical evidence right in front of him. It's this stunning, absolute abdication of parental responsibility, driven entirely by sheer ego.
Which leads us to a pretty massive question. What exactly comes next when human justice completely fails? I mean, the mother has done everything right here. She brought the evidence, she told the truth, but the ultimate authority figure just slammed the door right in her face. Really, what do you do when the institutions of justice are corrupted by the very people running them?
That takes us to Section 4, The Act of Truth.
Stripped of literally all earthly options, the mother turns to something much, much higher. In what has to be a breathtaking moment of absolute faith and pure desperation, she performs what's known as an act of truth. She actually takes her own baby and throws him up into the air, staking his very life on her integrity. She declares that if he is truly of royal blood, he's going to be suspended in the sky, but if her words are false, he will fall to his death. Talk about the ultimate test of honesty.
And that brings us to Section 5, the Sermon in the Sky.
Miraculously, the child does not fall, because, as it turns out, he is the Bodhisattva, a past iteration of the Buddha himself. Sitting perfectly cross-legged in mid-air, he doesn't just survive the fall, he actually delivers a stunning reprimand. Speaking with this commanding, sweet voice, he identifies himself and just completely shatters the king's ego. He calls out the blazing hypocrisy of a ruler who houses and protects state elephants and horses, yet completely abandons his own flesh and blood. He demands his rightful protection and public acknowledgement.
He asks, "Great king, you protect animals. Why do you not protect your own son?" Boom. It is the ultimate lesson on parental responsibility. The infant Bodhisattva basically strips away all of the king's fancy royal titles and forces him to confront his most basic human failing. The king is forced to look at his own cowardice right in the face, and ultimately, he has to beg the child to come down.
Now for Section 6. 2 Kings, 1 Lesson.
So the baby refuses to land in anyone's arms except the king's. Brahmadatta has to physically and very publicly accept his son, and he rightfully makes the courageous mother his chief consort. But remember, the Buddha is telling this whole story to the present-day King Kosala for a very specific reason: karma. He reveals the present identities of these ancient figures, and it's wild. The flawed King Brahmadatta, that was a past life of King Suddhodana, the Buddha's own father. The brave firewood gatherer was Queen Mahamaya, his mother, and that flying royal son was the Gautama Buddha himself. It's such a fascinating look at how our past integrity and our actions shape our ultimate karmic destinies.
By hearing this incredible story of past lives and universal justice, King Kosala finally learns his lesson. He realizes his own hypocrisy, drops that rigid class prejudice, and completely restores Queen Vasabhatiya and her son to their rightful rank. The conflict is beautifully resolved through the Buddha's masterful moral logic, which leaves us with this final thought for you to chew on. If absolute power tempts us to hide the truth, what kind of courage does it take to actually stand by it? Keep questioning the world around you, and thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.